All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of October 3rd, 2023 and October 4th, 2023. We will have a recess for the between October 3rd and 4th. Moving on now to our agenda this evening, we have public appearances and non-agenda items under item 2. I don't believe we have anyone registered. Thank you, Chad. On to the next item, which is number 3, department presentations, the 2024 budget presentation schedule. And first up is the budget document logistics. Misty Dodge, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I wanted to start by showing everybody where the document is available out on the city's website, and then go through just some mechanics of how the document works. I'm not going to get into what's included policy-wise in the document. That's what the mayor is here to share. I'm just going to stick to the logistics. So if you go to the city's website under government and then finance department, and then there's the financial records and reports. This is the same link that was included in the packet, both for tonight's meeting and when the document was referred. But it's right here in the 2024 Mayor's Proposed Budget. I find that the easiest way to navigate this 700-page document is to use the bookmarks. So when you're in the web browser, if you open it up to the left, and then this one has the bookmarks in here, you can see all the different pages that will get you where you need to go. If you're actually in the PDF version and use the bookmarks, all of the personnel budget proposals, which is whenever there's a request for a change in the personnel budget, whether it's an increase in hours or a new person or a reclassification of a person, that bookmark will be read in the PDF version. So that looks a little different on this type. Starting with the mayor's letter, which is what, again, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but that's a great place for everybody that's first opening the budget to go, because it does a great job explaining the policy decisions that did go in there, which the mayor will share with us. Then there's a bunch of other summaries included in here, including things like, what will the estimated tax rate be? What will the average home and average rental unit city tax amount be? The thing I'll point out is all of the ones that are in purple are all estimated numbers. The Board of Review is still in session, and we don't have the equated numbers from manufacturing yet. So that assessed value is still just my estimates. And I'm never perfect. I'm usually in the ballpark. So those purple amounts are all estimates until we get closer to the tax bill time. For the personnel changes, there's one additional report this year because we did ask for departments to submit their ideas or their requests for personnel over the next 5 years rather than just focusing on the next year. So there's a summary report in here starting on page 27 that lists all of those different requests. When the department heads present tonight and tomorrow, they're only going to talk about the ones that are for 2024. We're not going to go into all of the requests, but they are all available in there for your information. And if you have questions, you are welcome to ask them. We just weren't going to do the presentation on them unless there were questions. Then all of the numbers are in here for all of the different funds that we have. And then we get into the department details. So building inspection will be the first department up. I've asked the department heads to focus on the significant accomplishments for 2023, recognizing the year's not quite over yet, so some of these might be things we're planning to have done by the end of the year. Then they're going to talk about the notable initiatives for 2024 and the significant budget changes from last year to this year. Remind you that significant is in the eyes of the beholder. So anytime there was a fee change, that is on here as a significant change. And then from there, it's dependent. So if it's a policy item that we think you would be interested in, obviously we made sure to include it, but it's not going to be every difference, just the ones that staff considers to be significant. So they'll focus on those, and then they'll go to any new personnel budget proposal requests that are there. So all that information is included. When you look at one of these, this is the form for the personnel budget proposal. They're all numbered. And then in the top right corner, you can see whether or not it was included in the mayor's proposed budget. You can get that information also from that summary that I had showed you before. Then they go into, what the position is, why it's being requested, some statistics, which are really helpful. And then for departments that had multiple positions that they were requesting over the 5 years, we asked them to rank them. So that's what that priority box is. This is based on your department head's perspective of what is the most priority or highest priority of all of those positions. And I think with that, I am done.
All right, very good. Thank you, Misty. And then the next item on the agenda is the introduction, and that is Mayor Julia Rada Frada. She will present her budget. The floor is yours, Mayor.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Finance Committee meeting. So this is my first budget as a mayor, so you need to bear with me. I decided to put a presentation to guide me through my priority and the process that I used to put together this budget. I also want to thank Misty and her team for your guidance, city administrator, and all the heads of departments that we work together to put this budget. So when the 2024 budget overview, when putting together this budget, I tried to align what my priorities and the resources with my priorities. So one of the things that I did was incorporate some of the priority in this budget. I wasn't able to incorporate all of them, but I tried to do my best. You will see that. I also, as Misty mentioned, I requested city staff to provide me with all the positions needed for the next 5 years. So you will see in the packet or that the table that Misty showed you all the positions. In total, there were like 68 positions, maybe. Yeah.
82.
82. Oh, okay. 82 positions. Okay. But it was an idea because that one reflects the needs that they are in our city, especially we have been growing so fast in the last couple of years, and that we have a huge gap, at capacity level inside City Hall. Also, I follow recommendation from the Baker-Tilly staffing study for new position and also for organizational structure changes. You will see when I planted the seed for these changes. But, I was following the Baker-Tilly staffing study priorities too. We also incorporated, as you know, we received around $815,000 additional in share revenue. And that one helped us to cover some of our new public safety position, wages increases, and of course, COLA. And the final product that you have here is a balanced budget. We implemented prudent fiscal strategy, such as, we are getting expenditure restraint and also another savings, I find some saving for the hub operating costs that I'm going to show you later. But this is how was my process on putting together this. So when we talk about priorities, I have a couple of priorities. The first one for me was commitment to the staff. I want the city of Fitchburg to be a role model employer. And in doing that, we also need to, we need to be a competitive employer, provide good benefits. And my final goal was to improve retention, retention and also attract the most qualified people to work in our organization. So one of the first things that this budget also includes is a COLA of 2.5% plus 1% merit pay. So we couldn't go higher, and this is what our budget allows us for now, but at least there's going to be a COLA adjustment. Also, the other thing that was a priority for me was the pay on call for the firefighters. We increased the wage base from $9 to $12. The idea was to increase it to $15 per hour, but we couldn't, we didn't have the capacity in the budget to do that. So I think the idea is gradually doing that in the next cycles in the future. But the idea is we incorporate, we move from 9 to 12 plus the other certification. Most of them are going to be above the $15 per hour rate. So also we include some new employee benefits. The employees, they did in the summer a survey. The city requested, some question about which benefits we should include. So I read that, and there were good stuff there. So we tried to come up with the sum that we can allow. We have the capacity in the budget, and also I think we saw that the employee were a priority for the employees. So one is the additional holiday pay premium incentive. That one is, so we increase the pay for certain employees who are required to remain also on call. Especially, we are improving it's an incentive too, especially from public works, park and dispatcher and IT. We adjusted the PTO bank consolidation, and in doing that, maybe Misty, can you explain what you did with that?
Yeah, so it will actually be a new proposal that Chad talk about tomorrow night, if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. But that one, we did that, and in doing that, we are providing an extra day payoff, And the other one that is very important for me is parental leave. I tried to do 4 weeks, but I didn't have the capacity, so we started with 2 weeks of paid leave. The other thing that I want to mention in this budget content is, as you know, our health insurance premium increased 7%. So this budget already contains that increase. And the other thing I want to mention is that we are providing an excellent plan here in the city. The city usually pay $22,500 for each employee in contribution, because we are providing a current, no-deductible health plan for all eligible employees. So that one is something that we need to consider too. 7%, it make a big dent in the budget, almost $191,000. Also, something that increased this year was the Wisconsin retirement system. Usually last year it was 6.8 employer contribution. For 2024, it go up to 6.9. For the protected employee, went up to 14.32%. So that one is absorbed in this budget. So next, we move to commitment to the healthy neighborhood. So, as you know, I have been championing this initiative since the beginning, 2019. And it's something that I want to continue adding fund and resources to the healthy neighborhood areas. So this budget contains an additional $15,000 for Southdale area. This is our new neighborhood, so now we have 4. We also had in the ARPA until closure investment plans $100,000 for the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. So I am bringing forward $15,000 more to add to the 2024 grant program. Teen Center continue to be another priority. I keep the $40,000 for feasibility study is coming. And the other thing that is very instrumental that people say about the hub, the hub is moving forward. The hub is going to have around $125,000 in operating cost. So what I am doing this 2024, I am securing that amount for 2025 when the hub is going to be fully operational. So that one is this is a prudent fiscal alternative that we're doing here, and in order to do all of this initiative, we need to have a person. Most of these initiatives are under now the planning department, but due to the capacity and also all the activity initiative that we are moving forward in 2024 with the planning department, like revision of the comp plan, the 2 new neighborhood plans, reviewing the zoning. So we need to create capacity and also to have a champion inside the city hall to move forward with all these, communities activity. And since the city is growing, this priority and needs are going to grow. So I am adding a new position, and it also was part of the Becker-Telly study to do the organizational structure of community department. And this is the Community Development and Service Specialist. The position, description, and everything is in the packet, but this is a new position that I am bringing in this budget. The other thing that I forgot to mention here, we are adding $2,500 for B-cycle passes to work with an organization to provide those passes for, especially in healthy neighborhood areas. That's it. So next we move to the north. So I don't know, it has some effect, I don't know. So another of my priority is commitment to affordable housing. Housing is another of my priority, especially increasing the housing inventory and providing more workforce units. So the city has the funding available to start working on those initiatives. We have the housing fund, but we need the people. We need someone to take, to move forward with this. And this position is going to be under CEDA, but CEDA doesn't have the capacity because if you look at CEDA for the last 10 years, it has been a two-person shop. And the city has grown substantially in the last 10 years. So what I am adding is a new position called Housing Initiative and Finance Specialist. The job description is in the packet. And you can ask more questions to Mike when he's done. So the other thing is I am increasing the number of the Housing Advisory Committee meetings from 4 to 6 per year, too. Okay, next. Commitment to transit. As you know, the city metro transit services will increase in 2024 due to both the network redesign and the route enhancement, especially in the Southdale area. So this year we had to increase by $130,000 the route. And also we are adding $7,200 for supplemental transportation for the senior center. I know that the senior center needed transportation to bring our seniors from different corners of the city to the senior center, but this is something that we need to work in the future, how we're going to do it, but in the meantime, I think we can provide some supplemental aid. Other thing that in transit, even though BRT is, it doesn't affect the budget, but it's going to affect my priority to direct the staff to finding funding for an extension to the civic campus. The proposed BRT goes to PD, but the idea is how to bring it to city campus because that one is the goal. So that one is another priority related to transit. And then commitment to public safety. Public safety is a vital service in our community, and we know that the two departments are struggling in different ways. Firefighter, the fire department is struggling because too much overtime too much overtime are incurring right now. They have the people, but they don't have the position. In the police department, the city has grown. The idea is to increase the ratio from police to 1,000 people population, and also there is another issue that they have the position, but they don't have the people. So what I did for that is add a new firefighter. I reclassed 2 lieutenants to captains. They wanted a lieutenant, but we don't have capacity in the budget. I think the lieutenant if we go through a referendum, it's going to be easier to get those positions through a referendum. I also. They are getting a police executive assistant. They have a vacancy in the police record, especially for a long time. So what we did is we convert that position to an executive assistant to assist the command people. Also, through Ficherona budget, we are adding an EMS deputy chief of training and operation. And as I mentioned before, we increased the wages for the pay on calls. And commitment to the taxpayers. This budget is coming with a levy increase by 6.8%. However, the impact of the individual taxpayer is likely to remain the same or decrease compared to last year. The assessed value, that is the tax rate calculated in each property individual tax bill, will decrease next year. So this is why if we compare the city portion of the property tax bill for the average home, it's estimated to maintain the same, similar to last year. So that one is my commitment to the taxpayer. So other items that we included in the budget, so we have, as you know, we increased the number of 2 polling stations. So in adding the polling station, you know, we need to buy equipment, we need to have more people, you know. So we have an additional LTA election assistant and also overtime for included here too. We increased the forester and the HR generalist from 0.8 to full-time. So this is the position that Anna and Amy have. We also additional tax collection LTE 60-hour, additional overtime for 2 property appraisers, additional weekend splash attendant and maintenance overtime for the Memorial and Labor Day weekends. We restored the summer outreach assistant for the library. We have a new master plumber LTE and B-Cycle pilot passes. So if you look at the next slide, it gives you an idea of, you know, all the stuff that we included in this budget. I think the requisition position was around what is 18 for 24? 18? Okay.
I don't remember.
But it was a big number, but this one is around 6.7. So I know this is not the best, but this is what we were allowed to do with this. The other thing that I want to mention is share revenue. So people ask how we are allocated the 2024 share revenue. So here you have an idea, and you will find this table in the budget here. So we allocate these funds. You know, we have $115,000 in different. You know, with the COLA that we brought. You know, increases of the COLA for the police, for the fire. Reclassification of the police lieutenant, removal of the vacant record specialist to convert it to an executive assistant, the additional career full-time firefighter, the increase on the pay on call minimum pay wage, and you can see in the column how much those affected. Increase of roadway supplies, increase road maintenance, and those one were a total $840,000, and we got 815. So you have an idea how we use those share revenue. Next. So maybe this one you go through the process with Misty, she can explain better, but this is this table shows you how the general fund changes from 2023 to the proposed 2024. Our total revenue that we need to collect are $31 million approximately, compared to 27 from last year. And you will see it in the second part of the table, in the lower part, how those $31 million are allocated to the different expenses. You know, personnel, that is our biggest expense. There's contract service, operation expense, and the different one. So next. So this one is this table. This shows a comparative analysis of the taxes that we pay. So you look at the 2024, you will see our equalized value, our assessed value, and then the percentage increase in our tax levy, 6.78%, And then our tax rate per 1,000, our mill rate is 6.67 compared to last year, it was 6.73. So this is when we can see the decrease compared to this one. So the city tax assessed by an average single-family home is going to be an estimate, but it's going to be around $2,548,000 for an average home that is $381,000. So next. And the next one is an example of an average house and city portion of the tax bill, because, when we receive our tax bill, the city is collecting also taxes for different agencies, but we are looking at our own portion. So, as I mentioned, the average home is assessed is $381,000. So the city taxes paid on an average is going to be $2,548. And then if that one is our annual, if we split in 12 months, it's $212 per month that we're paying for all these excellent services. And if we go to the week, if we're paying $49 a week. So that one is a visual, so people understand sometimes how to have an idea how much they're paying for only for our part of our services to the city. And the other additional service that we pay in our bill is the recycling fee that is going to be around $232,000 for this year, for 2024. So next one is how much is the total revenue that we need to collect, or the levy that we need to collect. And if you look, we have $142,000 available, but remember that it included the $125,000 for the hub operating expenses, even though they are not going to hit in 2024, but we are saving that money for 2025. So there's going to be a remaining capacity of $17,000. Okay, next. And this graphic show, it's coming, all the levy funds expenditure by type, okay? So as you see, public safety takes 38% of the levy. You can see the other types of, funds. Next, the next graphic shows the general fund expenditure per class. As I mentioned before, personnel cost take almost, because we are a service organization, it makes sense. The 66% of our expenditure are linked to personnel, and then contractual service almost 9%, and then other operating costs takes almost 19%, and 6%. The next table shows how we are using the expenditure restraint. As you see, we are using the $750,000 in different replacement fund. If you have more questions about that, you can ask me, Misty. And then this my last slide is what is next. So we are having this finance department presentation today and tomorrow, and thank you for doing this and for being here. You're going to have the opportunity to talk one-to-one to the head of the department and ask additional questions. Public hearing, October 10, next week, is going to be our first public hearing for the proposed budget. Remember, the amendments are due on Friday, October 13. Before you put an amendment, check with the head of the department, because you remember if you are bringing something new, you need to remove something, So, and you have only $17,000 left. Also, we are going to have the discussion of the amendment in October 25 in the Committee of the Whole. There's going to be another public hearing on November 14. And the idea is to adopt the 2024 budget the night of the November 14. So as you see, I want to thank everyone for helping and guide me during my first budget. I want to reemphasize that I align the resources and the money to my priorities. You know, every mayor has their own priorities, and I feel like I am bringing some of the priority and also bringing taking into consideration the Baker-Tilly staffing plan. I know that we didn't have the capacity for all the positions, but I think the new position that we're bringing forward are going to make a huge dent and help a lot of the lack of capacity inside City Hall. So I will ask for your support. That's it. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your budget presentation. Moving on into the agenda. First item up is building inspection, and that's John Crook. You have the floor.
I'll be quick. Mine's probably one of the smaller budgets out there. Pretty straightforward. Accomplishments in 2023. We're still kicking the can around with OpenGov, which is being extremely difficult and time-consuming on our part. I'm still not happy that we lost iWorks, but we did, and it is what it is. But we're still working through all the growing pains on that. I did get to hire my inspector back this spring, which I think if you drive through your neighborhoods, I think you really see of us getting after the neighbors a little bit harder and faster. He's in the process of getting his certification so he can do 1 and 2 family inspections here shortly. We obtained code enforcement inspection certifications. What we did was actually, we kind of wrote that wrong. We obtained the E-Plan company that does our commercial plan review now. So pretty much the city of Fitchburg right now is a certified municipality as far as the state. We don't involve the state on zero, none of our construction projects unless the Encompass campus up here, HSS, Health and Social Services will be. But we can do the plumbing, HVAC, the buildings, all that gets submitted through the people we got under contract. Plus, it's a nice little revenue. It's not a lot. I think, Misty, what is it, about $10,000 probably we figured a year. But that's $10,000 added to the budget that we never, ever got from the state. So these people also, so we do owe the state money, but E-Plan pays them, so we're not involved in that situation at all. So it's kind of worked flawlessly for us. I think the builders like that. They would rather work with us than any other municipality around here. So at least that's what they tell me in my face, but that might not be so true. And then we worked in the Southdale area. Unfortunately, when we got the town of Madison, the city of Madison was the inspection crew there probably for the last 5 years. They did no property maintenance on the apartments or anything like that. So we really went after some apartment complex. Once again, I think if you go through that Southdale neighborhood, you'll see the things are really picking up. It took us a while to have them understand that we're different than, no enforcement at all. But I think we've done pretty well. I think it's going well. As I say, getting that extra position, just taking the pressure off us, because as you guys are well aware, we're a big part of public safety, but our public safety isn't driving around in fancy cars and trucks. Ours is to actually do grunt work and get out there and go do all these apartments and new homes and everything else. So I'm proud of my guys, and they've done well this year. Initiatives for 2024, we are really going to just continue working with the landlords and tenants. E-Plan, we're going to try to we'll keep working with them, but really ours is, we're not building a road, a house, or anything. I mean, it's what comes in. It's kind of hard for us to know what a crystal ball in 2024 is. I know we'll be busy. In the 30 plus years I've been in this position, if single family slow down, apartments pick up. That's just the way it is. We still need, they keep saying 10,000 units in Dane County in 10 years. And we're a big chunk of that. So we'll keep seeing a lot of stuff. Single family will slow down. 7.5% is a little slow, but I think that in the future we'll pick up. The changes for the 2024 budget, We just kind of readjusted some of our fees. We're not the most expensive place to build, but we are not the cheapest, so we're kind of in the upper part. We have a tendency of charging for everything because I don't trust anybody. So we have a tendency of people exaggerating on their fees. So we kind of go after everybody. But it's just a time to adjust. I haven't adjusted those in years. So we kind of did that. And then, of course, I mentioned we ended our contract with iWorks. So that saved the city $7,000. We're just rolled in with the OpenGov that basically IT takes care of all that. So the only other thing is I did ask for a position. Right now, our administrative position is shared with Public Works. Dina, and I would like to make her that position a new permit tech that basically everything's going electronic now. So I've got a gentleman that handles that stuff. I need him out in the field more than I do sitting at a computer. I mean, just this week alone, he had 4 different builders come in that we had to help them get on OpenGov. This permit tech, we need them to do that. They can do some of the smaller stuff. You know, they can handle a lot of the in-house stuff. So the permit tech is something that should be expanded. I don't ever want to compare myself to Sun Prairie, but Sun Prairie has got 2 permit techs alone with administrative person. But they got 5 inspectors, and we're doing it with 4. So we're a lot more. We're lean, but we're good at what we do. So I'm not really worried about that. But the permit tech in the next year or 2 will have to be, brought in. And we have one. Dina does a great job, but even talking to Tim, with the contracts and stuff like that, Public Works is getting bigger and more complicated, so it's time to split that position from a hybrid to 2 separate positions. So it'd be 1 position. It'd be, I don't know how Tim would rate it as administrative or a contract person, and I would use it as a permit tech. So it's really a half-time position that would expand both ways. Otherwise, that's kind of it. We're busy out there. We never slow down. We used to slow down in the winter, not anymore. We've got some big multifamily stuff coming in. So, any questions? Oh, and my budget really didn't change. Actually, kind of short of the labor part, went down because of the $7,000. So, I'm probably one of the few that didn't. My operating budget part didn't increase at all.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I'm looking on the screen to make sure there's no questions. I see no hands raised, but or from the committee. So thank you again.
All right.
All right.
You got it, big guy.
All right. Next on the agenda is planning and zoning, and the director of planning and zoning is Deanna Schmidt. And Deanna, how about
Good
you
evening,
carry it away?
everyone. All right. So significant accomplishments for this year. I can't believe we're already getting towards the end of the year. We have put together 2 proposals for our neighborhood plans for South Stoner Prairie and Greenfield. They are under contract. The steering committee is almost wrapped up, and we are ready to go. So really excited about that. We will be working on those neighborhood plans for approximately next year, wrapping up in October and November of '24. We participated in the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy. One of our staff members was on that working team to develop and plan for policies going forward in terms of housing in the region. We have been collaborating with the Parks Department on the Comprehensive Park and Open Space Recreation Plan. And as John mentioned, we've moved into OpenGov. Staff is very happy with it. The only thing that we want is for IT to give us more applications on OpenGov. We have also participated in the 360 Thinking Project with the UW Madison course. Some students this summer took a look at our comprehensive plan and our H&I strategic plan, our farmland preservation plan, and gave us some pointers through the lens of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals on ways that we can improve. Very interesting work. Happy to share that. There is a link to up on the planning website. We prepared the response for the capstone course, another UW-Madison course that we're collaborating with Economic Development for this next year. And then we have been working with the City of Madison on the BRT proposal. So the mayor mentioned that one. This year, we mentioned a couple of the neighborhood plans, the capstone that's coming up for next year, and also on our schedule for next year is to start an update to the city's comprehensive plan. So the planning department has a very full schedule. Some significant changes for the budget between 2023 and 24. I took a look at some of our fee schedules in comparison to other neighboring communities such as Sun Prairie, Monona, Middleton, and our fees has changed for, as far as I know, a very long time. We did some small modifications to some of our basic fees here in the planning department. We added about $700 for some additional public notices related to the start of the comprehensive planning process. A little bit more funds for staff in terms of their professional membership dues. We're working on increasing the credentials of some of our staff in terms of their professional credentials. And then a little bit of extra money for public information and education, also related to the comprehensive plan. So no staffing changes here for our planning department budget itself.
Very good. Thank you, Deanna.
She still has sustainability, actually.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. So
I was waiting for any
and
questions for that one.
I don't believe we have any hands raised online, so you may continue.
All right. So the planning department, we of course have the actual planning department budget, and then we have the sustainability budget. Some of our significant accomplishments under the sustainability budget was an application to the League of American Bicyclists with the hope of attaining gold. Unfortunately, we just got silver for this year under that application process, but it has given us some very good pointers for how we can move to that next step of gold. We're continuing the implementation of the B-Cycle program. We're going into our second phase. That contract was recently approved by Council. We have released the request for proposals for the sustainability plan, and also the sustainability plan is well underway. So very excited for the citywide sustainability plan that is currently underway. We led the city's first official No Mow May with the passage of Resolution R-8223. So we managed about 78 applications for No Mow May. Staff believes that was a very successful program. We completed the energy transition of annual energy report with the 2022 energy benchmarking and renewable analysis report. And then staff has been continuing to work with the feasibility study with the Verona Road West Teen Center. Current status of that is hopefully we will have our final scope of services set, and hopefully we'll be bringing a contract forward for that second phase of the feasibility study for Verona Road West Teen Center. We also hired a planning intern, and she has been a lot of support specifically to those H&I programs. For 2024, we will complete the sustainability plan, continue with the implementation of phase 2 of the Fitchburg B-cycle, and then continue with the feasibility study of the teen center. Budget changes, a couple of these the mayor has mentioned, continuing investment of $15,000 for the H&I grant program is included, with an additional $50,000 in supplemental funding to the H&I grant program, which is included in the TID closure excess increment fund. Hopefully Misty can answer any questions about that. Added $500 for operating supplies and $250 for public information. All of that is related to the sustainability plan, just some extra funds so that in case we need to do a little bit more extra of public information. Added $2,500 to other contractual services for the purchase of B-cycle passes. The mayor did mention this one too. Our hope is that we can work with a local nonprofit and provide passes for B-cycle trips that could be directed towards people with lower incomes that might not be able to afford a B-cycle pass. And then we are proposing to add the new community development and services specialist, and the position that Mayor mentioned already. This position would lead the implementation of the Healthy Neighborhoods programs. So in particular, we have the Neighborhood Navigator program, the H&I, the H&I grant program, and of course working with the Healthy Neighborhoods Advisory Committee. So this would be taking some of that extra load off of our planning staff and to allow someone to focus solely on those H&I programs. We're very hopeful that once there's that position that can dedicate the time, that this program can really fulfill the original mission of what the H&I strategic plan hoped for. So I'm not sure, Misty, what you want me to cover.
No, you did great, Deanna. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions from the committee? I see no hands raised online or from the committee. So,
okay. Misty, do you? I guess I do have the one well-being fund, but there's no changes and no additional budget in there for this time around. So, okay.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deanna. All right. Next on the agenda is the Economic and Development, and Mike Zimmerman, Director of Economic and Development. You will present. The floor is yours, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate the opportunity to develop or to present the CEDA and Economic Development budget tonight. Some of our significant accomplishments in 2023, it was the year of TID, not only with the creation and amendment, but then closure, but that encompassed a lot of all city departments and staff. It wasn't just economic development. It really was a collective effort through a lot of different departments. We continue to work with developers on the Arlo TIF request. That's the mixed-use project that's coming in Uptown. That's also going to include the cocktail lounge, our first watering hole in the Uptown neighborhood there. We're doing the 40th anniversary celebration. They continue through this year and early next year. I responded to a couple of requests for proposals that we got from our regional partner, Mad Rep. And then we worked with the Latino Chamber on a WEDC grant application. And we finally delivered some more assisted living and memory care housing stock at lots 53 and 54 over there by McKee Farms Park. Looking ahead to 2024, One project I want to work on is kind of a TID landing page on our website that would kind of be an overview of all things TID in Fitchburg, including kind of our goals and parameters of the program and how we utilize that local economic development tool. We'll be working with our planning colleagues on the South Stoner Prairie and Greenfield neighborhood plans. Those are really important from a city initiative standpoint to open up more areas in Fitchburg for growth and development. And we're excited about that UW-Madison capstone visioning project that we secured for Uptown Fitchburg. And hopefully the goal there is not only to update the visioning for that, but to drive specific projects when that finishes in summer of 2024. And then we continue to work on some of the major development areas like Hartung Fields, the new TID 14 over there to possibly identify some commercial partners and end users, as well as Colburn Hundley, who's working on the comprehensive development plan for the quarry across from Super Target and west of Fitcherona Road. And then we continue to try and move that clean fill site forward on the Fawside property. I think the developer we've been working with is still in the deal there, but we don't have final word on that yet, but we want to get that one moving forward. Looking at significant budget changes, the major driver there is just the hotel room tax collections. It looks like we will be back to our high of 2019 by the end of this year, so we're budgeting $525,000 in revenue for 2024. We had some increases for postage and mailing. We're doing the Buxton software, we're just launching that this year, so we're trying to traverse 2 years. We're kind of maximizing the investment on that, so that doesn't show up again in 2024. We're absorbing the Dame by Local membership that was in the elected officials' account. They're a little shy on funds, so that's moving over to the room tax budget. And then we've got public information and education, which is kind of my number where I true up my room tax revenue there. And we don't spend that money unless we have it in the bank. We don't want to kind of overcommit to our responsibilities. And then as you'll see later, we've got requests for housing initiatives and finance specialists. Even though we may not have it as a priority, it's being identified as a priority in our local governments. It's kind of being from the feds to the state to the local being pushed down to our level. And we've got $8 million in the bank now with the success of our TID for housing extensions. So it really needs to become a local priority for us. And that's what's driving kind of a need for a position. And then we added $50,000 to the TID 13 budget. This is meant to supplement the visioning that we're doing through the capstone project. So if we want to do like some updated market analysis for some of the specific users that we're talking about over there, Misty helped me with that to provide some additional resources that we could bring some data and analysis to that to make sure that what we're coming out of on the back end of the capstone project is something that's feasible and realistic and hopefully implementable. Then the 100 fund is basically when I first started, that was our basic economic development budget and really hasn't changed much through the years there. Just ebbs and flows a little depending on postage and some of those increases. Then when we get to the 225 budget, that's really derived from the room tax and that $525,000 revenue figure there. So those are our expenses. One thing I would highlight there is that our Fitchburg Chambers are a local tourism entity. So they receive 70% of the room tax dollars by state statute that we're required to spend on tourism, marketing, and promotion related services. And then some of Joyce and my salary also is allocated out of the room tax dollars for the promotion and marketing and tourism activities that we're involved in as well. Then when we switch to the housing budget, we've got a couple of buckets here. First of all, the significant accomplishments. We've worked throughout 2023 with Sustain Dane and Elevate Energy. We're really in the process of kind of formulating 3 different programs. And again, the need for the position to help us move these forward. This is the one that's called the Efficiency Navigator Program that's focused on our older multifamily housing stock and how we can work with hopefully property owners on improving and reinvesting in their properties, and especially from an energy efficiency standpoint, and hopefully also supplementing that with some investments in public safety for some of these buildings that don't have fire safety sprinkler systems and aren't at that level at this point in time. Then we're working with Ellers on a new program this is our second program, which would be the affordable units within market rate. And that's where we're looking to work with local developers where 10% of the units within a market rate building would be at 60% of Dane County median income. We're hoping that the building on Index Road, the Avalon property is currently referred to right now, would be our first pilot program working with Venture Capital. And we're working with them and Ellers to continue to define those program parameters for that. And then the third track that we're on is the rent-to-own townhome endowment fund program. And we were asked by administration to do more due diligence on that, to look at not only the risks, but also the opportunities and kind of balance those. So we've been doing a lot of outreach to various stakeholders, everybody from the Urban League to the Madison Development Corporation, the Dane County Housing Authority, to do more due diligence and analysis to identify those risks and then to look at strategies of mitigating those risks. That also involved 2 legal RFPs, and we're working with Quarles right now as the firm that was selected for that to do more of that risk mitigation and identification. And we'll be bringing that forward as we kind of refine that analysis. The initiatives for 2024 are basically the implementation of all 3 of those programs, kind of the final formulation of the parameters, and then really to launch those programs. And that's why Joyce and I are kind of scrambling right now, doing our economic development, community redevelopment, all the TIDs that we have work, while also trying to focus and create new housing programs from scratch, and then look at launch and implementation of those programs. So that's why we're requesting the housing initiatives and finance specialist position and with the mayor's support in the 2024 budget. So we hope that you can lend support for that as well. I think we can do some really good work as we look forward to launching those programs, but we need not only staff capacity, but we also need to build expertise too, because this is kind of a new area for us, and we need somebody that can really focus on those efforts. With the line items, specifically with the budget, we've got $390,000 in there for the Sustain, Dane, and Elevate Navigator program, and then we kept in $50,000 in professional services that we might need for additional analysis and due diligence for the rent-to-own program. And then on the other bucket of general housing, we kept $25,000 in there for the RFP and contract services that we might need, and then that covers also the per diems for the housing committee, and we're upping those meetings from 4 to 6, although I think we've already bumped up to 6 meetings this year with some extra neighborhood tours that we've already done. I think that covers everything. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yes, Alder Gerhardt.
Thanks, Mike. I'm curious about the Sustain, Dane, and Elevate Energy efficiency program. It sounds like a really interesting use of the affordable housing funds. And to clarify, it is coming from that affordable housing fund that was TID financed. Okay.
It's out of the $8 million bucket that we have.
Great. Is that something that we're going to discuss further through a contract, or it's the first I'm really hearing of it, so I'm curious to what point are we going to learn more about that?
Yes, we need to bring that forward as part of this kind of budget conversation with more details.
So assuming that the budget passes with that included, we'll talk about a contract at that point. Okay.
And we've got more details as far as how many property owners they would reach out to and how many units would be part of kind of the upgrades and improvements that they would be looking at. There's also a federal grant program that was submitted regionally here that might generate some additional dollars that we would derive some benefits from as well. And that was with our colleagues in the city of Madison, Sun Prairie, and I think for Middleton, I think is the other one that's involved with that.
That's really exciting. And then I have one other question. So going back to the housing, the CETA fund, it's page 163.
Page 160.
Yeah, under the significant budget changes, it says increase public information and education to expand reach, 13,300. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's just my number based on that 525 revenue. There's always kind of a, what would you say, excess availability of some dollars that I haven't specifically allocated to specific projects, just because if the revenue comes in under, I don't want to be overcommitted on some of those things. So it's kind of my plug number. That's probably not the right accounting term, to use, but it just kind of, what would you say, balances out the budget to be at that 525 number between revenues and expenses overall.
I like to think of it as his CETA contingency.
Okay.
So all of the purchasing
That's a
still
better
goes through
term.
CETA.
Yeah.
Like, contingency is much better than whatever word you used. Yeah.
And to clarify, that's coming from the hotel tax.
The hotel
funds.
room tax.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, additional questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, next on our list this evening on the agenda is the Senior Center, and we have Joe McHone.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. Significant accomplishments. That patio. It's beautiful, so hopefully you've had a chance to see it. But it was a lot of work, a little more work than I always predict, because I probably wouldn't do projects if I knew how hard they were. But it's turned out wonderfully, and I hope that not just older adults use it, but the whole community, because it's a nice space. And super proud that we really, besides my time, didn't use any city funds to get that done. We've really worked hard with the new apartment complexes to make sure they're aware of what the senior center has to offer, and we continue to do that. Highline, 160 people in that building, and we're just really starting to build up some momentum with some monthly meetings. The social workers go to each apartment complex each month and offer different programs, or just Q&A time, so then they can get used to what we have to offer. I'm really proud to update our mission statement, and then for the first time we have a vision statement, which you saw on the front of the packet, I think, in the executive summary. Stronger focus on diversity. I think we've really worked hard this year, especially. I mean, we've worked hard in the past, but we've had more of a initiative to really reach out and make sure what we're offering really serves our community and reflects the interest and the values of the variety of people that we have in the community. It's changed a lot over the years, and now is the time to really make sure that we're doing the right thing. So focused on that quite a bit more this year. And then we did some pivoting with the meal program, and I feel really proud about that. Being able to continue serving people, a credit to Mandy, our nutrition site manager, volunteer coordinator, who worked with area restaurants to keep those meals flowing. And not only does that benefit our clients and the city, but I think it just builds a community partnership. And it was just a really kind of great feel-good moment to see these restaurants come on board and other businesses that donated money so we could keep people fed. So really nice. Initiatives for 2024. So every 5 years, we get it reaccredited from the Wisconsin Association of Senior Centers. So we're due for that. So we'll start working on that, and it takes about 6 months just to review everything from staffing to policy to programs to everything in between. It's a really good kind of time to just kind of do good housekeeping and make sure everything looks good. And at the same time, we're going to go through an inclusion action plan. It's also a toolkit too. So then it will force us to kind of parallel that accreditation to make sure that not only staffing, but buildings, programs, language that we have in marketing materials, that all kind of fall in line to follow along with that inclusion and diversity toolkit. So I'm kind of excited to incorporate both and do them together. So we'll be developing some committees, from the public, from boards and staff too, to kind of work through this process with us. Secure funding for the transportation, which I was happy to see the mayor put in her budget, hoping to be able to offer more programs before and after lunch if we have some supplemental funding. We do have a little bit of leeway once in a while with our transportation provider. Through this whole year, we've had a second bus from the county because our bus numbers are so high. But I know there's some advocacy going on to keep that second bus in 2024. So I'm really hoping that that happens. Otherwise, it'll be even more important to have supplemental funding to get people just to and from lunch in a decent amount of time. So I'll be watching that closely. And then, as I mentioned, to continue to build the connections with the apartments. Now that we have tried to make a presence there, then we need to make sure that people are coming. Sometimes it's just a little more hand-holding and personal invites and more outreach. But I want to see something that's a little more measurable based on the size of the apartments or how many residents are in there. And then the same in Ally Drive and West Verona Road neighborhoods. Just have a better plan to reach out to those communities. I know this year staff went to the Luna Fest out there, and we have dropped some brochures off just today at the Luna grocery store that are in Spanish. We can just do better, so really kind of focus on that. Let's see. Oh, budget changes. Let's see. Yeah, we increased our budget quite a bit from Dane County. We're waiting to see what our contract for 2024 will be, but we had heard that it'll be kind of status quo, and that county money helps pay for the case management program as well as the nutrition program, and that it also includes about $16,000 that we are able to bill for medical assistance clients. So that's kind of a different pot of money. But I was happy to see, I serve on the Area Agency on Aging Legislative Committee, where we do a lot of advocacy for funding, and the county executive did include our proposed like $237,000 in his budget above and beyond what we get. And so Fitchburg's piece was $13,000. So I'll let you know, Misty, but that was pretty exciting that it made it that far. So we'll be doing some advocacy with our budget, our supervisors, our board supervisors. I did add the $7,200 for the supplemental transportation, hoping that we can do more wraparound services outside of the meal program or the meal times. The digital signing is kind of working with Fact TV, and some other departments have the same expense, so that will shift over to the Fact budget. I did ask for an increase in program expenses to allow for more outreach because, my program expenses last year was $1,400, which doesn't take you very far when you're doing ice cream socials or trying to do outreach. Oftentimes outreach, you got to give them something to get them there. I'm the same way, so no judgment. So I'm hoping to increase that by $1,100. And then the copier lease moved to the maintenance, to the IT fund. But Misty, isn't my newsletter in there somewhere or no? Oh, did she take it out? Did it get taken out? Because I did increase $2,000 in the newsletter.
I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
Well, I'll just say it right now, just in case, because I'll probably advocate for that. Right now, we spend about, I think our budget is about $4,000 for our newsletter, which is quite a bit. We make 900 copies and we distribute them all over. We also have an online presence and, dump it in your inbox of about 1,200 people. So the word is getting out. But once we added all these new apartments, our numbers of copies we had to make skyrocketed. The cost of printing went up. We had a really strong partnership with, I'm looking to see, why is that? Interesting. Okay. I'll have to get somebody to do a budget amendment for me because we're already over budget, and I don't see that price going down, particularly as we increase our outreach over to Ally Drive. Not everybody gets an online newsletter. Some people might want both, but we go through 900 newsletters pretty quickly. And so we're going to probably see an increase in what we do. But on the flip side, we're also at this point, we're over $3,000 that we bring in revenue just from the ads that we put in there. Some are for a whole year, some will do a flyer insert. So we do have the capability of offsetting some of that cost. So maybe we can talk about that. Staffing wise, hoping to add a bilingual activity assistant to the senior center. We are seeing now regularly each week Hispanic speaking older adults come to the center, which is so awesome. And oftentimes there might be a person or two that is bilingual that they can help interpret. But we like to do more programming that might just be in Spanish, and that person can help with that. And so I think in order to meet that increasing population that we're seeing, we have to have a Spanish-speaking person on staff sooner than later, so we can really serve the needs of that population. Case management-wise, we still work with Newbridge Madison to help us case manage clients that don't speak English, and we do use the language line, not as much as I had hoped, but I know we were just using it the other day when a woman came in, didn't speak English, needed something pretty immediately, was getting evicted from her apartment, and so we were able to use language line for that. Not that activity assistant would be doing case management, but it would be somebody there that could quickly, see what the problem is, see where we can direct them and get them services. Also, too, it's very reminiscent to when I was here and we pushed for the addition to the senior center. A lot of my information that I shared or justification was how much time I set up and took down tables so we could use the rooms. And so I'm starting to see a big shift in time being spent of taking down the ping pong tables so then we can put up the tables for the craft clubs, and then we can take the tables down for yoga, but then put them back up for a different program. And so having another person there that's maybe at a lower pay that can help do some of those things day to day will be very helpful too. And then also too, we do a lot of special events that take a lot of time, so we would shift some of those duties over to them. Nutrition site coordinator. So years and years ago, we had a separate volunteer coordinator at 10 hours. And then we had a nutrition site manager at 20 or 25. I'm going back a few years. It just wasn't working. You can't retain an employee at 10 hours a week with that kind of job responsibility. And so I made a decision to merge those positions, because back then a lot of our volunteers really revolved around the kitchen, around the nutrition site, the meal drivers and the kitchen helpers. And so it just made sense. It seemed like, these duties fit really well. But fast forward now, I want to say 10 or 15 years, it's getting to be too much for the volunteer coordinator to run the kitchen. We're now up to almost 50 home delivered meals a day. So that takes a lot of oversight in the kitchen just to make sure the food is meeting the county standards. You have to take temps. You have to make sure the drivers are showing up, drivers come back, and it's just a lot of filling of food and getting it out the door and then feeding people when they come. And then, at the same time, Mandy's recruiting new volunteers, because without volunteers, we can't really run programs. And we have a lot of programs that are volunteer-led. So that job responsibility has kind of shifted. And again, I think for me personally, I've seen it, having volunteers run programs, give them ownership and makes them feel part of the community. But I'd like to expand that more to do more service-oriented things like snow angels, somebody that shovels snow. But it's hard to manage all those volunteers when they don't show, and that kind of thing when you're also trying to manage the meal program. So by adding a 24-hour per week nutrition site coordinator at a lower pay, we could then expand that volunteer coordinator position to full-time to pick up other duties too, like some of the marketing, as we move towards social media and we have a website and that kind of stuff. Some of those duties could fall under that volunteer coordinator too, to free up time that somebody else is doing it. So that is why that's in there.
And those are the only two for 2024.
Yeah.
So the others are in there for reference.
Yeah.
Questions for Jill? Yes, Alder Gerhardt.
Thanks so much, Jill.
Yeah.
I did notice you brought up the language line in terms of translation services. I noticed that there was only $100 in there for language line.
It's super cheap.
Oh, it is. Okay, I was going to say
it's completely inexpensive. It's like 7 cents a minute. And
Wow,
because
okay.
we are government, the whole contract was very inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap, that would just devalued it. It's very inexpensive.
So $100 truly is adequate for, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Great news.
Like I said, we're not using it as much as we maybe could be. And I think, but I don't want that to replace a real staff person because it is kind of difficult. It's come in handy too. We had a sign interpreter through there one time. So I like having the contract. There's really no cost to keeping it, and it is very affordable.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then just want to clarify with Misty that increase in the newsletter was not, I didn't see that in the
Well, and I know we had a
item.
discussion that it might get pulled out. And
Yeah.
It was removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jill.
Okay.
All right, additional questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much, Jill.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right, next on our agenda is library. We have Wendy Rawson.
Hello.
Hello.
So I will start out with our usual reminder that the library is a little bit different than other departments. So we are not part of the general fund. The levy that is given to the library is under the control of the library board. I think what that means for tonight's conversation is that pulling money out of our budget doesn't allow you to spend it somewhere else in the general fund. Is that good, Misty? Okay, so significant accomplishments for 2023. First, this feels like it should be more than one bullet point, but we are completing the final year of our strategic plan. So we've had a 5-year strategic plan that has included all kinds of projects, some building projects, some DEI training projects. We ended up adding a significant section under COVID protocols that we were not expecting, so that kind of diverted our attention for a little bit. But we're happy to be wrapping that up. One of the building projects was to replace the youth services department has picture book shelving, and we formerly had face-out shelving, so there were bins you had to go through. And one of our big projects was to replace that with just regular flat shelving so that we could grow the collection and so that it's just a whole lot easier to find things on the shelves. We created 2 pollinator gardens with the master gardeners that are volunteering, and they've been fantastic. You can see one at the corner of Lacey and Research Park if you're driving by. It's fantastic. It's enormous. You can see it from quite a distance, and we've had all kinds of critters in there, so it's been working really well. We had a second one over by the Storytime room, and they are looking to possibly expand that in the next year. So that's been really helpful. We've done some programming around that as well. So we had preschoolers planting sunflowers and all kinds of fun stuff. This next one is not exactly done yet. We're working on a little free library that is not quite so little for the Southdale Park neighborhood. We've had a really good response to outreach in that area. So we're working on a set of 2 steel lockers that we're turning into a little house with a roof that will include adult and kids books in English and in Spanish. So a little bit bigger than we would normally do, but we think there's a real need in that area, and it's definitely a population that has trouble getting to the library. So I think it's just a nice way to provide some service in that area. All right, looking at initiatives for 2024. So obviously we've completed a strategic plan. We're going to start right up on the new one. So we'll be putting quite a bit of staff time into just designing what that's going to look like. We're looking to take the former gallery space on the second floor of the library and converting that into a conference room. So then we will have a public conference room and a staff conference room. And then we're also looking to, at the tech center on the second floor, so we have had I guess you would call it a computer lab of 16 computers. Nobody really wants to sit in there with 15 other people. You don't really want to sit with people behind you. Most people are bringing in their own devices anymore. We have already cut back the number of computers in that room significantly, but we're looking at expanding the doorway window space and taking out the computer tables, shifting some shelving around, kind of making another living space area like the quiet reading room. So I think that would just be much better utilized than the space that we've got now. Looking to at our collection areas to update things just based on how technology is going. We are currently looking at our book on CD collection. Circulation has really dropped with that, and so we're looking to shift some money into Overdrive so that people can download e-audiobooks and listen to them through Libby. And then we'll add, I'm sure, a lot of projects when we get the strategic plan going. Budget changes, not a ton. So we did add an amount to the fee schedule. So if you are using the meeting rooms and you damage the furniture or the technology, that we can assess a fee for that based on either repair or replacement. Oh yeah, the TID closure. Yay, Misty added this in. This is good. So we're just making adjustments based on the TID closures, which is kind of new for us. Increase in service fees for the automated materials handling unit. This is what we call the sorter. So it's being replaced late this year. We are cutting into the brick of the building tomorrow to make room for the new unit. It's going to be, I think, have a lot of features that we don't have in the current one, but the service is a little bit higher. So we had to account for that. Increasing the administrative fee, so I don't know if you're all aware, but we pay an administrative fee for the services that we get from like the finance department, HR department. So as positions are added there, that cost is going up for us. And then we're reclassifying a couple things. This is, I think, kind of cleaning up where we're putting Friends money was being put into one account. We're going to put it into a different account to just kind of draw it out a little bit. And then sale of assets. So we're just kind of putting things where Misty thinks they belong. And then restoring the summer outreach. This is the only staffing that we have. So the Friends of the Library have been funding summer outreach assistants to go out into the parks with our outreach librarian in the summers. So including that for a third year in a row. That's it.
All right. Questions? Questions for Wendy? All right. I don't see any hands raised online either. So, Wendy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening. All right. Next on our agenda is Park and Recreation, and we have online Scott Endel. Scott, you have the floor.
Thank you, Randy. Good evening. Misty, are you able to go back to the organizational chart by chance? One slide. I just wanted to make a point of clarification for everybody. The parks, the administrative end of the parks department is held by me as the parks director, but the operational components of the parks department is under the operations, or the operations of the parks department is underneath the public works department. So a bit of information there. I do want to point out too that Misty, over the years, what she's been able to do is help organize the parks department. We actually have 3 different divisions that have been organized under the parks department. One being park and forestry, which we'll talk about. The other being recreation, and then the cemetery division, which is gaining some notoriety over the last couple of years. So, thank you, Misty, for helping us get that organized. So, if we start in the park and forestry division, certainly I know the mayor has included it in her budget to expand the forester position to full time. And if you look at the departmental statistics in this area, which is a little bit above, you can see that certainly with the tree plantings, the emerald ash borer mitigation plan, and actually natural areas, which Anna coordinates the burning of these areas, volunteer hours are continuing to increase, and that's a really, a return on investment, if you would, for the full-time position. And then of note is the Pike Park acreage has steadily increased, just as a point of information. Significant accomplishments for 2023, I would kind of classify them in 3 different categories. Park projects. We reconstructed McKee Farms Park basketball court. They installed 2 shade structures at the splash pad, along with a shade structure and a patio at the inclusive playground. Clayton Road playground was replaced this year. A drinking fountain was installed in Sunnyside Park. And then actually one item that I don't have on here is McKee Farms parking lot. The front parking lot adjacent to the main shelter will be replaced this summer, this fall, if you would. Park planning initiatives. We've got the Stoner Prairie Park master plan that we're continuing to work on, along with the Terra Vesa Egg Park master plan. And then within the forestry division, we've, with the help of the council, did the tree protection ordinance in 2023, along with a collaborative project, Madison Tree Canopy Project in Dane County Parks. The new initiatives for 2024, in the planning end of it, phase 1 of the hub, we're hoping to get that project up and begin construction in 2024, along with the Stoner Prairie Park plan implementation, and then also the Terra Vesa Egg Park plan, begin to start to implement that. Park projects are listed on the bottom. We've got the Tower Hill shelter replacements, siding at McKee Farms Park, and the McGaw pickleball court expansions, which includes lights and 4 additional courts within the forestry division. We've got complete the street and park tree inventory, work on an urban forestry strategic management plan, and then write grants as staff time allows. And then on the significant changes for 2024 from 2023, we're going to increase the park shelter rental fees for the larger groups by $25. Some budgetary annual budgetary adjustments are the median mowing maintenance has been increased to $100,000 a year. We did increase uniforms this year. There are going to be the three shade structures at the splash pad are going to need to be replaced this coming year. And then we actually added a category for the maintenance of the drinking fountains within the park system. Personnel wise, as the mayor indicated, we are requesting to increase the forester from 0.8 to full time, and then also to get some additional overtime hours to have the splash pad open Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend. So that's really the park and forestry division of the budget. Would you like me to speak a little bit more about the new staffing plans, or are we good with that in the park and forestry?
No, I don't believe so. I think we're good, Scott.
Very good, very good. Then let's jump right to the recreation division of the Parks Department on page 219 or 220. Significant accomplishments. I would categorize in marketing. They've increased the marketing programs on social media platforms and printed flyers. A lot of programming. They've added a bike camp. They did sponsor a season flag football tournament. We do a lot of partnering with the youth enrichment leagues as part of our 80-20 programming. We did update the park shelter, or they updated the park shelter reservation guide, and then also updated the content of the recreation community center website pages. And with the pickleball courts at McGaw, we've had a lot of pickleball clinics and lessons held there. And then for the initiatives, continue to work on new programming, maybe to review the community center rental policy and update some rental fees. Some significant budget changes. We did increase the tennis court and the ball diamond rental fees minimally, but it certainly is worth the dollars that we're asking for the increase there. And then one other item, which you may have recalled, we did a budget amendment for the contractual services portion of our budget. That did increase from $45,000 to $90,000. So that's no new staffing requests in the recreation division. And then the cemetery division, and I do want to shout out to Misty. She's really made this division a part of the budget, which is very, very cool. On page 224, you can kind of see the amount of activity as your cemetery sexton. I sell in the neighborhood of 30 cemetery plots every year, and I would encourage everyone to take care of those things for your family. Just as a plug, it is difficult for families that come to the cemetery and they have to pick out the site for a loved one that they need to lay to rest. So I would encourage you to get that taken care of so your family doesn't need to take care of that in the future. And then what we did do, now I've been here since 2006, and the cemetery plot fees have been the same. So we did increase them. Cece in the rec department did a little bit of research, and we're not as high as the highest one, but we're kind of in the middle. So we did propose an increase in the cemetery plot fees for 2024. So if you want to take me up on my offer, 2023, the prices are pretty reasonable for cemetery plot sales. So
All right.
that's all, unless there's questions.
All right. Very good, Scott. Questions from the committee or council?
You good?
No, we do have one question, Alder Gerhardt. Or two,
Sure.
maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you call out the Southdale Park improvements. So we have money allocated there to redo that park area. I'm sorry if I missed it, but can you speak to that?
No, we do. Yeah, I didn't include it in there, Gabriella. Yeah, we do have dollars in there for Southdale.
Great. And then in terms of the fee schedule, you said that our fees are rather low compared to other municipalities. Is that what I heard you say, or can you?
For the cemetery plots, they were low, yes.
I guess I was speaking to more of the rental fees. So for the baseball diamonds and the tennis courts and the fees like that, are those updated in this budget?
They are, yep. We're increasing those for 2024.
So across the board, all the fees pretty much are increased, or?
Well, for the shelter rental fees, the large shelters are being raised $25, and then the rental fees for the diamonds and the tennis courts, yes, they're all slightly increased, along with the cemetery plots.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I don't see any additional questions, so thank you very much, Scott.
Okay.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
Good.
All right, very good. And next on the agenda this evening is Public Works, and we have our Public Works Director, Tim Volker. You have the floor, Tim.
Good evening. I'll start with the significant accomplishments in 2023 for the Public Works Department. The first bullet, we hired a completely new transportation division. We have a brand new project engineer for right-of-way, a brand new transportation engineer, and a brand new engineering technician for transportation. We will be completing the Lacey Road Seminole Highway reconstruction project. That is still on schedule to be completed on November 17th of this year. And Sain Road reconstruction phase 1 will be wrapping up at the end of the month, so that is still on schedule for the end of the month. And then also we anticipate completing the design of the Fitchburg Road reconstruction project. We're at about 60% right now, so between now and the end of the year, we're looking to wrap up that design. And then lastly, we enabled new TDS build-out to about 25% of the city. That's the fiber network that TDS is putting in throughout the city. And then notable initiatives for 2024, we created looking to create a citywide traffic and transportation map that's available to the public that they can go to and look at transportation-related issues. We're looking to double the number of traffic studies that we do, and then also create a new pavement maintenance policy. So right now, the city kind of does streets throughout the city. We're looking to kind of break the city up into zones and do neighborhoods by neighborhoods. So a neighbor doesn't call and say, hey, why'd the street next to me get paved? However, my street needed it. So we're looking to do it neighborhood based and not so much throughout the city. That way it's also easier on the contractor too to mobilize to one area, not work over here. It'll shorten the duration of construction, but most importantly, the neighborhoods will look nice all at one time. Then lastly, we're looking to perform more design work in-house since we are now fully staffed. Some significant budget changes. We increased the uniform cost and number of uniforms based on the current costs and staffing levels. We added 1,000 tons of early fill salt due to our salt shed renovations. We'll be starting the salt shed renovation project this month, so we had to, our inventory of salt, we couldn't keep as much at the end of last year due to the rehab that's going on. So since the inventory is less, we need to purchase more to start the season that's coming up. We increased the unit prices of crack filling, surface sealing, and pavement markings to better reflect recent bid pricing that we're seeing. We increased utility expenses by $5,000 for the cost of the 2 new electric vehicles that we received this year. And then we shifted $6,000 for copier lease and maintenance to the IT budget. Then there were also a number of fee schedule changes that were increased just to account for the staff review time needed for those reviews. And then within this division of Public Works, we proposed 3 brand new positions. All 3 of them are not included in the mayor's proposed budget. The first is to reclassify the administrative assistant. Currently, the admin assistant position split between the building department and Public Works, and we're looking to have her full-time with us. And the reason for this is our engineers and our engineering technicians have a lot of administrative duties. So we're looking to offload those administrative duties onto the administrative assistant and let the engineers and engineering technicians focus on the design, the construction inspection, the management of the projects, what we're paying them to do, not, paying them to, code invoicing and all that stuff. So it was just an idea to better use the city resources by freeing up the engineers' times to focus on what we hired them to do. Next up, we had an additional street maintenance worker. Currently, a utility division worker is used to plow snow. So we wanted to have create this additional maintenance worker for streets to have them focus on plowing snow and streets, and then have the utility person focus on utilities. Again, it's kind of a better use of city's resources, why we hired the person. And then lastly, it was an additional maintenance mechanic or additional mechanic in our streets, and this position would allow us to do the repairs and maintenance of police and EMS vehicles, approximately 34 vehicles in-house. These vehicles have kind of a more frequent need for routine maintenance as mileage accumulates faster, and right now they are being outsourced and maintenance by either a dealership or local repair shop, so we would look to do that in-house. Any questions on this division in particular?
Alder Gerhardt, go ahead.
I'm just curious about the admin assistant request, the first one you talked about.
Yes.
It says that the total budget impact would be 0, but I guess it's because we'd need to replace that admin work in the other department.
Misty, you can chime in too. I'll take a stab at it first. Yeah. So kind of what we talked internally was to move that 25% from building into Public Works, and then building would get that permit technician, which would kind of help them, with that 25% that they're missing, was the intent. So since the building department permit technician was not approved, we kind of left the admin assistant how it's currently set up. So the building department wouldn't have that hole in the department.
So it kind of has to happen in conjunction.
Both needs to happen in order to make this work.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, next up, the division is the refuge division, and significant accomplishments in 2023, we mailed the information to all residents receiving curbside pickup for recycling and refuse, held 2 confidential paper and electronics recycling events this year, and we updated the recycling guides. And then notable initiatives for 2024, we're looking to explore the feasibility of organics collection program within the city. And then we're also looking to issue the request for proposals for the citywide collection services starting in 2025. And then significant budget changes from 2023 to 2024. The fees have changed. So solid waste increased from $228 to $232 per unit, which was a 1.8% increase. And then brush charge increased from $7 per unit to $7.25 per unit, which was a 3.6% increase. We increased the pickup unit cost for solid waste, recycling, brush, and yard waste per the contract with Pelletieri, and estimated the number of accounts for 2024. And then we reduced the fuel surcharge from $40,000 to $25,000 based on recent charges from the vendor. And then there are no proposed staff changes within this division. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't believe so.
All right. Next up is our Transit Division and Public Works. Significant accomplishments in 2023. We coordinated with Madison Metro Transit on their reroute, which became effective on June 11th, 2023. We coordinated with Madison Metro on the bus rapid transit project. We evaluated city transit needs outside Madison Metro routes. We participated in the Beltline Planning and Environment Linkages Study, which includes transit components. And lastly, we advertised the request for proposal for the intra-city transit study. So that'll be advertised here shortly. I believe Ross discussed that at the last TTC meeting, and he's going to move forward with the actual advertisement of that. Notable initiatives for 2024, we looking to coordinate new and existing transit routes throughout the city, continue to coordinate with Madison Metro Transit on the bus rapid transit project. We're looking to complete the intra-city transit study, and then lastly, participate in the Metro Advisory Team if it is created. And then significant budget changes from 2023 to 2024. There was an increase in cost for Metro Transit from $1.4 million to $1.9 million due to an increase in service and routes as a result of the transit system redesign and council-approved route enhancements in the Southdale area. And lastly, the increase in state grant funding from $1 million to $1.2 million to reflect the increase in aid due to the cost share formula. And there are no proposed position changes for the transit division. With that, does anyone have any questions?
Seeing none.
All right. Next up is our Water and Sewer Division in Public Works. We had quite a few accomplishments in 2023. First up is the design of the Well 12 Tower D PLC replacements, the Reservoir Tower improvements, and the Sain-McCoy Interceptor. We completed large meter replacements for Phase 1 out of a total of 4. We replaced the Crescent Road, Jacqueline Drive, Pawnee Pass water main and fluoride equipment. We completed Lacey Road water main installation between Fitchburg and Seminole Highway, and then also had a sanitary installation from the Badger State Trail approximately 1,500 feet west. We extended the Lacey Road sanitary sewer east of Sain Road. We pulled wells 5 and 10 for maintenance. And then we also removed sand from the Badger Reservoir during the well maintenance of well number 5. We treated wells 4 and 10 with chemicals. We installed water main and sanitary sewer in the 3rd addition to Terra Vesta, Highfield Reserve Phase 2, Ocala Drive, and Lacey Ridge Townhomes. We completed grease connection and completed cross connection and grease trap inspections, completed water rate case study, and submitted information to the Public Service Commission for review. Then we completed the impact fee study adjustment and implemented fee changes. Notable initiatives for 2024, we're looking to construct Well 12, Tower D, the PLC replacements, and the Reservoir Tower Improvements Project. Those are all under design this year. Implement a unidirectional flushing program. We're looking to replace McKee Road and Tower Hill water mains. We're looking to replace the large meters in phase 2 out of 4 for that project. Looking to install water main in the 4th addition to Terra Vesta, phase 3 of Highfield Reserve and Hartung. Looking to complete the cross connection inspections that started this year, and then looking to complete Sain Interceptor extension and the McCoy Interceptor design and construction, and then looking to complete the Fish Hatchery Road sanitary sewer lining project. And there's also quite a few budget changes from 2023 to 2024. I can go through each one individually if you guys want. Most of these were due to what we had looked at with the finance department. We sat down and looked at the last 5 years and kind of what the average expenses were in each line item. And we adjusted the values based on kind of what we've historically done the past 5 years. A couple of these we did increase based on, with utilities, you may 1 year have to do an inspection. So if we did the inspection in 2023, we would have reduced that line item amount in 2024 since the inspection is no longer needed. I believe it's, let's see, 2, 4, 6, about the 8th bullet down where it says reduce maintenance of miscellaneous water plant by $105,000 as cross-connection inspections will be completed in 2023. So that's kind of a specific example on how a line item could get reduced since an inspection's only needed 1 year and not the next. And then the very last bullet, there were a couple fee schedule changes to the water impact fees, and then an additional holding tank fee we added. The city did not have one prior to this year. And then the water and sewer rates are currently filed with the Public Service Commission. And then there was one new position that we requested in 2024, and that was for a master plumber, LTE. So we're looking, this year we did a budget amendment to incorporate this position into the budget. So this position for 2024 would have it for the next 3 years. We're looking for 400 hours per year for a master plumber to help us with our 1.5-inch and 2-inch meters that we have scheduled to be replaced in 2023 to 2026. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Alder Gerhardt.
So for the, going back to the budget changes, I'm looking at the MMSD increase of $259,000. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know the sewage district is doing a lot of infrastructure improvements and costs are going up significantly around the region. It just seems like that accounts for a significant amount of the increase in the sewer budget. So I'm curious a little bit more about
I believe I don't know what the average increase for the areas going into MMSD was 9%. So I believe McFarland saw like a 14% increase. I didn't hear what Fitchburg was. Misty, do you know by chance?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact increase,
Okay.
but the bulk of that sewer utility is the rates that we pass on, or the cost that we pass on through the rates. And so we'll go through an exercise at the end of the year to figure out how much our rates need to change as a result of this increased cost.
Yeah.
I don't know the ballpark percentage.
Yeah, and the reason for those increasing increases is, operating costs for the MMSD have gone up just like they have for us, the city. And then also they have a lot of capital projects coming online that they need to start. So I believe a couple years ago, they kind of made us aware that it's going to be like this for the next several years where we see close to double-digit increases from them.
They
Yeah.
did, and it was a committee of the whole, I believe. And they were significant increases.
Yeah.
They did bring it to our attention.
They have failing infrastructure just like us that they need to address. So they've, looked at their projects and have, scored them and it determined they need to make these improvements. Otherwise, they'll have a failing system if they don't.
Yeah, I do worry. I remember that committee, the whole meeting. That was really interesting. I do worry about the public as these fees year over year continue to jump. I don't know how aware people are of this forthcoming change. My guess is not very aware.
Probably not.
Yes,
We'll be answering questions.
So I don't know if there's any information available on the website, like as we continue to see these increases, like aside from that committee of the whole, I don't think we've talked a lot about it. So it's just, I wanted to flag it as something that we probably should figure out how to deal with that, because I don't know, people are going to start noticing the increases, especially as it
I would agree.
compounds.
We're going to have to figure out how to navigate through. Mm-hmm. All right. Any additional questions before we move on? Hearing none.
All right, next up is our Stormwater Division in Public Works. Significant accomplishments in 2023. We completed several stormwater studies, including the Seminole Glen Stormwater Management Plan update and the flooding analysis north of Dunn's Marsh. We completed construction of the Sherrill Drive Stormwater Improvement Project. We completed dredging of several stormwater ponds, specifically Gunflint and Red Arrow ponds were fully dredged, while the West Chapel Valley and Apache ponds were partially dredged. Completed the data collection, design, and bidding of storm sewer project at the Greenway Cross and Egaman intersection. Completed data collection and retrofit design for the Techlands infiltration basin. We completed the water quality model for the TMDL watersheds. Updated the storm GIS layers to include as-built and storm water management PDFs for greater organization and efficiency for staff in the city. Oversaw the contracted vegetation management services. And lastly, we tracked maintenance on privately owned stormwater management practices. And then notable initiatives for 2024, we're looking to develop a proactive maintenance plan for stormwater infrastructure and update the stormwater utility maintenance plan. Next up, we're looking to develop a rating system for prioritizing proposed stormwater projects. And then lastly, work with the Department of Natural Resources on phosphorus reduction projects. And then some significant budget changes from 2023 to 2024. We increased the vegetation management cost from $102,500 to $122,500. We increased the street sweeping disposal costs from $12,000 to $24,000. And then we increased gasoline and diesel costs from $20,000 to $27,000. And then lastly, we shifted $700 for the copier lease and maintenance to the IT fund. And then for stormwater, there are no proposed staffing for 2024. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Alder Gerhardt.
Is that half-time stormwater engineer position filled at this point? Okay.
It is filled.
Great. The question I have is about the street sweeper disposal costs. Did that double because we now have two street sweepers instead of just the one? Or
and fees for the disposal costs at the landfill have gone up.
Okay, so it's a mix of the two.
A mix of the two,
okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
And plus, I would also suspect probably additional, as the city gets bigger and more developments happen, you're also picking up more off the street. So kind of those three things are contributing to that increase.
Okay. Additional questions? Hearing none. Go ahead, Tim.
All right, our last division in Public Works is Building and Grounds, and some significant accomplishments in 2023. We installed 2 new high-efficiency boilers at the Senior Center. We updated City Hall and Community Center building HVAC software in several areas of each building. We worked with engineers to design a new library chiller. And then we power washed the exterior of the City Hall campus buildings and did paint touch-up throughout these buildings. And notable initiatives for 2024, we're looking to have the new library chiller installed, looking to have that installed in spring. Also looking to replace the entrance flooring at City Hall and the Senior Center. And then lastly, looking to replace the air handling units at the Community Center. As far as the significant budget changes from 2023 to 2024, we added $3,000 for solar repairs at each building, and then we added $5,000 for bathroom partitions and $3,500 for wall flashing repair at the Public Works maintenance facility. And then lastly, the flooring at City Hall, we added $4,800 for that, and then $4,000 at the Senior Center for the flooring. And there are no new position changes for 2024 in buildings and grounds. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Oh, hearing none. Nothing.
All right.
All right. Concludes your presentation?
Thank you.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. We will move on. We'll move on to the next topic on the agenda, and that's finance. And I'm guessing, Misty, you're going to address finance.
I am, and I'm the last one of tonight
Yeah.
before we recess until tomorrow. So for the finance department, we have a lot of divisions as well, but it's not split into the various executive summaries like it is in the other departments. But it includes debt service, insurance, capital projects fund, the ARPA TID closure, investment plan. All of that information is in the document if you're interested in all of those details. But significant accomplishments for 2023 for the finance department. We did hire that new accountant position and then backfilled the account clerk too. And with that additional position, we reorganized the responsibilities of all of the employees, which really helped improve the workflow of the different positions and then really helped with segregation of duties. As Mike Zimmerman mentioned, it was the year of TID, so we had a couple of audits that we did, a couple of closures, a couple of new pay-goes issued, 2 new creations and an amendment, and then another payment or a payoff of a TID incentive bond. The town of Madison stuff, for the most part, is complete, though every once in a while things creep up, like it did again today. So the final apportionment of the town of Madison assets and liabilities has been completed. That was a pretty significant project, and really appreciate the city of Madison's partnership with us as we wound down that town. That was quite a project. Also participated in the citywide staffing study, and then with the 5 years of proposals that are included in this, the 82 that I think the mayor mentioned, it was a lot of work kind of putting those all together. On the debt side, we did prepay our TID 6 debt, which saved us $90,000 in interest. Financial software, so we're working on upgrading our current accounting software to the new version of the same software that we have. That choice was made due to the limited financial resources that we have for software. We really wanted to use those resources for the 2 pain points that we have, which would be budget software and payroll software. So the payroll software is not designed for governments, and so we would like to look at other options there. And then budget software we'll talk about a little bit in the new proposal. But implementing the existing software will happen this year, and then we'll start exploring the other software options this year and into next year. OpenGov software also impacted the finance department. While we appreciate the huge benefits from a user perspective, especially with the public, it did create some additional work on the finance side, making sure that all the numbers are coming in appropriately, but overall have been very happy with that software. Monitored this supplemental state shared revenue proposal, the different acts and the different implications that have occurred as a result of it. And then continuing the conversation with all of you about our funding sources, our funding gaps, and that potential referendum in 2024. So that is ongoing now, but then will also continue into next year. For 2024, we will have the spend down and termination audit for TID 15, which is that former TID 1. Do have to complete the 5-year arbitrage report for the 2019 debt issuance. We are interested in creating multiple additional TIDs if it makes sense from a development perspective, because of one of the implications with that shared revenue was the change in the levy benefit or levy limit benefit that we will get. So working with administration and economic development to see if there's any areas that make sense to create TIDs early so we can get under the old rules instead of the new rules. The budget software that we talked about, and payroll software. Another part of the shared revenue piece is that the personal property tax is repealed as of 1/1/24, which has an implication on our TIDs. I actually learned after this got put together that there's an opportunity to reset our TID base by the end of this October. So I'll be looking at that to see if that's a process we want to do this year, or if we want to do it next year, or if we want to pass on that opportunity. My guess is that we'll want to take advantage of that this month still. Continuing to work with council administration and the consultants about the potential levy limit referendum, which, as you know, will be a lot of education and outreach to make sure people know what is being discussed. And then learning about that new maintenance of effort requirement that is now applied as a part of the shared revenue. One of the big problems I have from our perspective is the rules on what that maintenance of effort piece looks like applies to this 2024 budget, but they don't have the rules out yet. So because we're increasing all of our costs in public safety, I'm assuming that we will be in compliance, but it's something that we'll have to make sure we continue to monitor there too. Significant budget changes. So the payment in lieu of taxes from the water utility is a pretty significant revenue the general fund receives, and that decreased about $100,000 due to the decreasing tax rates. A couple of big revenues coming in, though. So we closed TID 4, and a portion of the revenues that TID 4 previously received came to the city. So that assisted the general fund. We had that historic supplemental shared revenue piece, which we have put to good use. We also received an additional amount in the utility aid portion of the shared revenue because there was a change also in Act 10 to the megawatt incentive payment. So with the O'Brien solar farm in particular, we received a pretty significant increase in our shared revenue due to that. That was $12,000. So we had received, I want to say $50,000 last year because the solar farm was first put in, and now we got another $12,000 because of those increase in the rates that the shared revenue formula included. Included in the budget, there are new funds for those new TIDs that were created. The debt issuance that we originally planned for 22 and 23 has been delayed to 24, so that has some implications throughout the budget. With fee changes, so we did look at the times when the finance department bills out costs to customers. So whether it's the developer or police presence at an event, we bill back the staff time that is spent on those items. And we added a 15% administrative fee onto that. So if we're billing back, call it $100 for police presence, there'll be a 15% admin fee to account for the timekeeping, the administrative, like command staff at the police department, as well as the finance department time and materials in order to do that invoicing. And I'll say this is, it's not widespread that all municipalities do it, but in Dane County, there are quite a few that have this administrative fee on billable time. We did reduce the operating supplies and postage because of the elimination of that personal property tax. So personal property tax bills will still go out this December 2023, but 2024 they will no longer be sent out in most situations. However, though that reduction in tax bills is offset by the additional parcels that we continue to bring in. Dog license applications, we used to print a paper card and send it out with all the tax bills because that has now moved to OpenGov. That has been removed. So if people want to renew their dog license, make sure you do it online through the OpenGov process. And then there's 2 new personnel budget requests for 2024. The first one was included in the mayor's proposed budget. This is for an additional 60 hours of LTE time for tax collection. So with the 2022 cycle, December of 2022, we had some vacancy savings and we used that to hire an additional LTE person. And we had 2 people sitting at the counter at the end when things got really busy. And it really helped the process go smoothly so that full-time staff could be doing the back end part of it, the balancing and that part. And then we kept the lines relatively short and kept things moving really smoothly. So found that to be really helpful from a tax collection piece. The other new proposal I'll talk about was one that was not included in the mayor's proposed budget. This is for a new budget analyst. This was identified in the Baker Tilly staffing study as well as a high priority position. It was interesting as I was going through this because we have the statistics section on this form and just looking at what the budget looked like back in 2012. I've been whittling away at trying to make things better in the budget to make it more transparent, make it easier to follow. And so we've been making small incremental improvements, but could really do a lot more from a budget perspective with additional resources. The new budget software will help as far as the document is concerned, but if you want to implement, project-based budgeting or other budgeting things, that would require additional help if you want to make wholesale changes in how we budget. And it is just a different situation now when we have tight levy limits and trying to work with the departments to figure out how things fit in. It's very different than it was 10 years ago. So that's all I had for this, unless there's any questions.
Alder Gerhart.
So remind me about the budget software. So that was that we paid for that with ARPA TID closure funds, and I remember us discussing something like in the 700,000 plus range. Is that software or?
It's a piece of that software.
Okay.
So it's 900,000 total. That would include the implementation cost plus the ongoing cost. The bulk of that piece is going to the on-base software, though. So we are doing a new contract workflow right now. We updated the agenda management software. The upgrade of the accounting software I talked about is in there. And then the payroll software, if we choose to do a different provider, and budgeting is all included in there. So it sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But
I fully support it. Yeah.
City of Dubuque just went to a different software provider that's pretty heavily used, and they're spending like 3 times the amount of money that we have budgeted for. So we can't do something quite as global. So I chose to pick the big pain points and really focus those resources there, being Paylocity or payroll software and budgeting.
Okay, and those are budgeted for this coming year?
Correct.
Okay, so we have not yet purchased that. That will become this coming year, assuming the budget passes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. No additional questions. Anything else?
No. When we do take the recess, it will just be Finance Committee that is actually voting on this.
Right. Very good. Thank you for the reminder. So if there is nothing else, then I will ask for a motion to recess, and then we'll reconvene tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., tomorrow evening being October 4th.
I move to recess until tomorrow at 6 p.m.
All right. Very good. We have a motion to recess. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We are recessed until tomorrow evening, October 4th at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you.